The San Antonio Spurs are one of the most successful franchises in NBA history, but this was not the case until the arrival of Gregg Popovich. The Spurs have been a playoff team throughout their history, but the coach's arrival in 1996 allowed the Texas franchise to make the necessary leap in quality to become one of the most successful teams in North American sports. Now that they have drafted Victor Wembanyama, the franchise has the tools it needs to continue its dynasty in the West after some of the most difficult seasons in its history. But what makes the Spurs so special? The franchise's biggest strength is undoubtedly its playing philosophy. This philosophy, established more than 25 years ago, has transcended basketball and is present in the memory of all NBA fans. But to understand this process, we have to take them back to what many people consider to be the NBA's golden age, the good old 1990s. It is 1996. Jordan is about to return from his first retirement 2 years after completing his first three-peat, and Hakeem Olajuwon is on top of the basketball world after completing one of the best individual seasons in NBA history. The Alamo franchise, whose leading exponent is David Robinson, has suffered one of the worst regular seasons possible with a record of 20 wins and 62 losses, caused by the absence due to injury of the Admiral. Thus, the Spurs, as in 2023, would enjoy picking with the first pick overall in the 1997 draft. It's not too hard to figure out what his decision was. On that warm June night, the San Antonio Spurs used their first pick on Tim Duncan, considered by many fans to be the best power forward to ever play basketball. And the truth is that his resume is not to be outdone. 5 times NBA champion, 3 times Finals MVP, 2 times regular season MVP, 15 times All-Star, and 10 times All-NBA First Team. Individual awards that are only available to a handful of players in history. Gregg Popovich posted a record of 17 wins and 47 losses during his first season in San Antonio, the year that led them to draft the Wake Forest legend. However, the Spurs would post at least 50 wins in 19 of the next 20 seasons in the longest streak of dominance in recent NBA history. And the one season they failed to do so was the lockout season, in which they finished with a record of 37 wins and 13 losses. They couldn't achieve 50 wins because only 50 games were played that season. Simply unbelievable. Putting on the Spurs jersey not only means having the opportunity to play for one of the most successful franchises in the NBA, but it also means playing for one of the best coaches in the history of the league. It is very common to talk about Popovich's great ability to generate talent. Since he started working for the franchise, there are plenty of examples of players who have managed to reach their best basketball level in San Antonio. In addition to Duncan, players who were part of the Spurs hardcore have included Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. The French point guard was the 28th pick in the 2001 draft and has gone on to become the best point guard in Spurs history. His agility, intelligence, and great technique have made him one of the most unstoppable players in the NBA, even inspiring other European point guards, such as Goran Dragic, with his play. For his part, Ginobili, selected 57th overall out of 58 players in the 1999 NBA draft, has become probably the best sixth man in history, with attributes similar to Parker's: explosiveness, technical ability, and great intelligence. With a core based on these 3 players, the Spurs proceeded to win 5 NBA championships during Popovich's reign. San Antonio won rings in 1999, 2003, 2005, 2007, and 2014. 5 championships spaced over time in a regularity and consistency that scares. And not only that, the Spurs have had to face during this period some of the best super teams in history: the Lakers of Kobe and Shaq, the Lakers of Kobe and Pau, the Heat of LeBron, Wade and Bosh, the Warriors of Durant, Curry and Clay, the rise of the Oklahoma City Thunder with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. The talent of the entire league was rotating around a Spurs whose key players were immovable. But years later, the golden age of the careers of the 3 stars would come to an end. And with the feeling that Kawhi Leonard did not want to take the baton of being the leader of a Spurs, with whom he had disagreements, San Antonio had to rebuild. The trade of Leonard to Toronto in exchange for DeMar DeRozan and the signings of LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol were not enough to continue the franchise's historic tradition. So, management decided to start trading all assets in exchange for other long-term assets. During this process, players like Derek White, Lonnie Walker, or DeJounte Murray have left town to become rotation players for other teams ready to compete. But these departures gave San Antonio assets, such as future draft picks, that allow the franchise to increase its maneuverability going forward. In fact, Popovich's experience has been felt in these players. Derek White has become a piece of the starting five for the Boston Celtics and one of the best defenders in the league at his position. Lonnie Walker, despite being younger, has performed at a high level during the playoffs with the Los Angeles Lakers, becoming key in victories against the Golden State Warriors. And Murray, although he has not yet finished developing his game, is a player with the ability to be a second or third stringer for almost any team in the league. However, the arrival of Victor Wembanyama allows the Spurs to compete from his rookie season, allowing players with potential who are on the roster right now to display their game for the Texas franchise. Because yes, the arrival of the French center changes the situation completely. The Spurs no longer have to think about the future, but about finding the necessary pieces to surround the young player. Players like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, or Trey Jones, part of San Antonio's young core, must find a way to maximize their performance by taking advantage of Victor's strengths. However, the franchise's austere management has allowed San Antonio to stockpile up to 30 draft picks over the next 6 seasons, in addition to having enough money to attract potential free agents over the next few summers. If the Spurs fail to make the playoffs this upcoming 2023 to 2024 season, they will have missed the playoffs the same amount of time since 2019, as they did during the first 51 years of the franchise's existence. That freezing stat explains the situation all by itself. These past few seasons for San Antonio don't really represent the historic place the team deserves. And if anyone knows that, it's Gregg Popovich. Wembanyama has no weaknesses. He's a complete player with dribbling ability, tremendous shooting range, and the technical ability of a veteran player. It's true that his turnovers and outside shooting percentage numbers have not been the best this season for the Metropolitans 92 in the French League. But keep in mind that his opponents are veteran players, unlike the players who come into the league via the NCAA. What is most incredible about his scouting report is his tremendous agility for his size. The Frenchman is 7 feet 4 tall with an 8 feet wingspan. His arm length is the third longest in NBA history, only behind Manute Bol and Taco Fall. But his ability to move on the court is surreal for a player of his size. In addition to his athleticism, Wembanyama is a great low-post player. He has a great shot creation ability using his height, and he is also one of the best defensive prospects in the history of the league. Victor's weaknesses, or rather his least strong points, are precisely those that a coach like Gregg Popovich can maximize. In 1997, the Spurs had 32 more wins than the previous season with the addition of Tim Duncan and the return to the court of David Robinson. This turnaround mark is the second highest in history, behind only the Boston Celtics, who during the 2007 to 2008 season achieved a 42-win turnaround, thanks to the arrivals of Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett. San Antonio finished this season with a record of 22 wins and 60 losses, so they would need a record of 54 wins and 28 losses to match the turnaround mark of Popovich's second season in San Antonio. The West is in the midst of transition. LeBron James and Stephen Curry are close to passing their baton to new players, and franchises like Denver and Phoenix are causing fear in the conference. A 54-win season is no easy feat, but if there is a combination of factors that could give San Antonio a slim chance of pulling it off, it is the fact that they have paired one of the best coaches in history with one of the best prospects in history.